Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright, and welcome to Captain America's Rampage of Murder.
Today we're talking about minute 101, which begins with Cap climbing out of the wheel well and ends with a Hydra pilot securing themselves in the Flieger Parasite. Flieger Parasite.
That's nice. That's nice. You're really leaning in.
I said themselves because I realized as I was watching this, I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's like the bodysuits on these Hydra pilots are a little, there's kind of like some bagginess to them. So it's really hard to tell. Are they men? Are they women? Who knows? Who knows how far Red Skull was in his advanced thinking with pilots in 1940.
It's very progressive. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Progressive. All right.
That's exactly.
All right.
Joining us on the show today, we have Ryanne Bennett. Hello, Ryanne.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me. I love any kind of fighting, so I don't know what that says about me, but thank you for having me for the scene.
Oh, it's a thrill. You are a director of news broadcasts and content creator for Black Girl Nerds. We had you on last season, and we are thrilled to have you back. It's going to be a week of a lot of punching. A very punchy sort of week. So we're looking forward to it. But let's just kind of start things off. We saw last week Captain America made it onto the wheel of the Valkyrie, and it took off. And of course, Peggy Carter and Colonel Phillips were left behind. And now, this is it. We're kind of thinning things out as far as who Captain America has to take on before he can finally confront Red Skull. And we find out in this minute, at this point, it's the pilots. And we see a bunch of pilots start coming out. My first question for both of you is, we just took off. Why are the pilots already coming down to hop into their little drone planes? Like, does it seem smart to hop in now? Wouldn't they wait till they were over the United States, perhaps?
That's 14 hours from them. They just want to be ready, Andy.
Is that it?
Yes,
Is that it?
Yes. It's just, you have no choice. You got to go right now. I mean, Captain America is onto you. Go right now. As soon as you can, get out of the plane.
I guess. It's I don't know. It's very funny. Well, the interesting thing is there's no sense that anybody has any idea that Captain America made it onto the plane. Like, these drone pilots seem very specifically to be heading to their drop planes, which are also called the Flieger Parasite, which we've talked about a number of times on the show. Those are those 8 propellers that we see at the back of the Valkyrie. And so, and we didn't mention Steve sees 3 of the 4. We're on as Steve jumped onto the plane. So from the rear of the plane, it's like the left wing. I don't know. Do you call a plane the left wing based on if you're sitting in the captain's seat looking out the front? I guess so, right?
I have no idea the anatomy of a plane. I'm going to say yes.
I mean, I was going to go with it because you sound convincing. So I was going to go with it.
Yeah, you do really do.
Okay. Well, if I'm the captain and I'm piloting it, it seems like I would be like, okay, so the left is my left. And so I guess he's in the left wing, basically.
The problem is that his seat, as we have seen, unlike many captain seats, turns around. So when he's turning around, addressing the crew, is it the right now? I don't know. It's a stage left, stage right problem.
I don't know. In a plane, is it left and right, or is it like a boat where it's like fore and aft and...
starboard and...
What was the other one? Starboard.
There's a fourth one. Starboard.
Steve Winwood. I think the other side is Steve Winwood.
It's Winwood.
Well, I'm not getting my pilot license anytime soon, so I'm going to go with left. I'm going to go left to right. I'm going to go with left wing.
Left and right. We're going to stick with it. We really could talk about this for the rest of the show, but let's not.
I am very curious, though. Now you guys got me. I'm going to have to Google it while you guys are talking or something. I'm like, I want to know what it is.
I know. Okay, here's my next question for you. We see 3 of these drone planes, which also are bombs. I mean, that's the design of these Flieger Parasites, is that they're basically little mini suicide planes. They have a bomb in the front, And apparently they're all the Tesseract weaponry bombs. And then they have a propeller in the back, and they have little wings that pop up. And the suicide pilot flies them down to hit the target. That's kind of the conceit of these little planes, which is it's interesting. It's kind of horrifying that that's that's the design, but that is what they do. Now we do see.
Well,
I guess first let's talk about logistics. Oh, sorry, Pete. Did you have something you want to say? Because I want to talk about logistics.
One, I have breaking news. It's forward, aft, starboard is right, and port is left. So breaking news, we've got that resolved. Starboard, port.
But is that on a plane too, or is that just on a boat?
It's just the words, man. It could be any. It could be a car if you want it to be. I don't care what you call it. Tell your kids to get in the starboard side.
I want to start doing that. See, it just really throw them.
Yeah, you need to start doing that. But second, did we determine that these particular ones, I think, did you have the schematics of these things, that the bomb itself somehow separates? You do. You have it open. Look at that.
Nice.
Thank God you're such a nerd.
Well,
I love it.
The thing is that these were all like schematic designs at the time when they were kind of coming up with the whole thing, and it never really like the one that shows where the front end pops off. It shows that the front does come off, like the person piloting it could actually drop the front off and then fly off to do something else. It's not. I mean, it's just
not much else. Let's be clear.
Well,
it's kind of a single-purpose device.
Well, theoretically, I guess the concept would be they would fly back to base and load up again.
Yeah.
I guess.
But still, it's like, why not just have a plane with a couple missiles that they could shoot then? Suddenly it just starts seeming really stupid. But again, it was just a concept in the early stages. It's never shown that that's the way that they're actually designed here in the film. And so they just basically seem like suicide planes.
And that's when we started recording this show 17 years ago. We had some real grief over the fact that these things exist, that they look very much like suicide planes. I think there was a brief respite when you got that book and we discovered that maybe, just maybe, they separate.
But we don't see that here.
We don't see that.
Well, and here's another question. Will it still go off if it just drops without a person in it?
I don't think it will.
Like, so a bomb doesn't. I'm unfamiliar with bombs.
Well, because like when you're flying a jet, my understanding is that the jet arms the weapon before it is fired. That the weapon has to somehow be in like armed status before it is fired. My hunch is they would not have a bunch of armed bombs in the belly of the Valkyrie just flying around. Like they would have to drop the bomb, fly to the destination, arm it, and then release. So if it just drops, it's like that's why you see bombs that didn't get armed early on, like land and not go off because they were somehow not triggered to do so. After, I think earliest bombs were like pressure bombs. You dropped in. I know very, 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 very little about this, but that's my understanding, that it has to be armed first.
Well, that would explain why he was trying to go to each one before the pilot and try to drop them and try to get to them as quick as he could, or get them out before they got in there.
Right. It seems like there is maybe some logic to what was going on in here.
Or he really just doesn't care about Switzerland and just wants all the bombs dropped on Switzerland.
They're
just save all the major cities. Drop them in the Alps.
It's just fondue. Yeah.
I think Red Skull just likes a bunch of minions following him. Because some of this stuff, I feel like at his power level, he could have did some of this stuff, but he just likes a bunch of like robotic looking, people just following his orders that he just bounce around to and okay, we kill 50 of these, we can get a little bit more people over here. It's just like they're very indispensable to him where he doesn't care. Clearly.
I mean, it seems to be that most of his troopers, like the design with them is to not ever be taken hostage, but to chomp on a cyanide capsule so that you can't be captured. And so, he seems to view them all as very disposable. And weirdly, they're all like blindly following too. That's another thing that seems to be the case. Now, this plane is supposed to have a 540-foot wingspan, which I always struggle with buying into when I look at it. But I mean, does it seem like having this huge plane with 8 bombs on it is enough for his like worldwide conquest. Like, I guess I'm not exactly sure what his intentions are here, especially since so much, I mean, we only see 3 of the 8 of the bombs on the plane, and they're all targeted for U.S. locations, Chicago, Boston, New York. I mean, is there a specific reason he's so specifically targeting the U.S. at this point, as opposed to, I mean, I know we had seen other maps, like when the SS officers come in, they had targets all over Europe as well. Like, I mean, especially now that they're taking off in Austria, why are they not starting there as opposed to flying all the way to the U.S. to drop these? I'm not sure. Do either of you have any sense of Red Skull's logic that I'm missing here?
I think it's about a statement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think he's about to make a statement. He has this, like, the bombs are, our presumption is the bombs are Tesseract bombs, and we don't have a sense of the size of the explosion that these will cause, but dropping one on New York would presumably level most of New York, and dropping it on one city and doing that level of presumed damage would be a massive global statement. Dropping it on 7, 8 cities around the world is I think a significant impact, maybe a more significant impact than just one plane would, one Valkyrie would indicate. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're dropping those bombs in the U.S., you're definitely trying to start something. You definitely want that attention to, being the powerhouse that the U.S. is, the war that they're in, that he really doesn't care about, obviously the war itself is his own personal agenda. Like, he's taking evil to a whole new scale, where he's just, as much impact I can make right now, drop all the bombs. I think that's another reason too why they were running, because he's more of just, okay, right now I know I have a chance, like a minute chance of losing this, of people not seeing what I have. So let's just start dropping bombs. He doesn't really have like a calculate. Like, I think a lot of his plans are going out the window as far as like being really calculated and, having the doctor and having this well thought out plan he had. And now it's just, okay, if I lose this, I can't lose the Tesseract. I have to make a statement. Let's just start dropping bombs.
I guess it just seems to me like if he's over Austria, or if he takes off in Austria and his goal is New York, it seems like, okay, between there and New York, and I guess, I know we were talking about this last week. I think the straightest path is actually kind of over the top of the Earth. So it's probably like from Austria, it would probably be like crossing up across Germany, across the UK, and then kind of over Iceland, Greenland, and then coming down Canada to New York. But it seems like maybe dropping on London along the way might make sense. And then as he comes over the top of the...
Well, we don't know. I mean, maybe there's a London labeled bomb in there somewhere.
Well, that's true. And yeah, and I guess that's another question I have as we continue our conversation this week is, where are all the other pilots? Because as we'll find out, we have 8 pilots, or 8 drone planes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we did see last week that
maybe they were the ones who slipped off the ladder when they were trying to get up.
There were a few that did get shot and killed. So maybe that's it. Maybe we only have 5 left, and this is the group we have. So, all right.
But again, that goes back to last week's question, which was, oh my goodness, how many people does it take to fly this thing? Our presumption was the people who got shot after Red Skull got up into the plane were people who were supposed to sit in all the other chairs in the main area, the main cabin. But maybe they were just pilots and they were meant to stand in the wheel wells and get ready to fly the drone bombs. I don't know. It just seems like there aren't enough people on this plane.
Erg. Yeah, I struggle with this. Well, anyway, whatever is going on, whatever the plan is, we know we have at least 3 U.S. targets. We actually never see the bomb that's past Chicago. Like, we never get a view of, like, deep enough down the wing to see what that 4th one is that's in here. We do see 4 pilots come running down, and Steve, his plan is to hop up on top of the wheel, and then as the pilots come down, he actually kicks the 4th one off, who falls. I mean, it's actually a great fall, the way that he kind of hits his side on the railing and kind of flips over perfectly, like just like this little toy that just kind of, like, it's almost like he's a figure who just kind of spins over perfectly around the edge of the railing. It's funny to see him do that. And then
I'll bet he thought it was funny too.
I bet he did too. Now, okay, so we're going to call that one number 4, because we end up seeing 5 pilots. Number 4 flips over the railing. Number 3 is apparently the only one armed. He pulls out a knife out, or they pull out a knife out of like the ankle, like a holster in the ankle or something, and goes after Steve. Does it strike either of you as like, should more of them have been armed in some capacity? Is it weird that this is the only one with a weapon?
And that there weren't Tesseract knives.
Or Tesseract guns.
That's a good. I mean, he has vibranium, so you should come with a little bit more armed, I would think. But
yes.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess no matter what, they were just, I don't know. I just think it's so dumb how they're just following him. And this is like, you barely have anything. You know, you're on a suicide mission. Just, it's no matter what you do, you know you're going to die for this guy. And the guy's crazy. I'm like, what? It's like he has to have ultimate serene power and you're just feeding into it. Like the little robots going into the like each plane. It doesn't make, I'm with you, Andy. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. They're just like blindly following him. No weapons. I mean, they look like they could be out of Star Wars. We don't even have they're not even like stormtroopers with the little lightsaber guns. You know, it's like nothing. It's like just run and see what's going to happen. I'm like, this guy has powers like your boss. No weapons.
I know. It's so weird. Well, you know what? You said an interesting thing. They're acting like robots. Maybe we never see their faces. Maybe the pilots are robots.
Ooh, there you go. Maybe they're.
Okay. I think the evidence that we have is that Red Skull is, as Ryan says, crazy. And 2, that he also has this dream of stormtrooper-like forces that follow him. I think it's more likely that he said, okay, I want you all to dress like robots and act like robots. And he just is making prisoners dress like robots because that's all he has access to. And so I think it's actually, this whole movie is an exercise in cosplay.
Ooh, nice voice, by the way. That was great.
This is pulling out his German. There you go.
Cosplay, I do not want to sign up for it, but they can have it. It's great.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Great
they can have it. Here, you get this and a knife. Sorry. Some of the guys get the blue goo pew pew guns, but you get a knife.
Well, apparently only one of them gets a knife.
Yes.
Only
well, because
one
there's
of
also
you.
a lottery. There's a Red Skull lottery for weapons.
It's okay. Well,
you drew the short straw.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So we have, so Steve kicks number 4 off the ledge. Number 3 pulls the knife and goes after Steve. And number 2 charges him. And then number 1 actually decides, you know what, screw this. I'm just going to go jump in my plane. Why does number 3 or number 2 also not do that? If their whole thing is suicide mission and they're supposed to be, their whole training and everything is to hop into these little planes and fly down. Like, does it matter if they stop Steve at this point? Like, wouldn't it be more efficient for them to actually just jump into their planes and fly off?
Unfortunately, number 1 is the only one that figured that out.
Yeah.
Number 2 is very stupid. You see everybody else behind you going out, and he's like, oh, well, surely a charge is going to work. This is going to work. And so, but yeah, number 1 apparently is the only smart one. He tried as a robot, aka Stormtrooper of in the Marvel universe. So yeah, apparently he was on the smart one. But yeah, it absolutely makes no sense the way they just keep charging him.
I know.
Well, I do think there is something to like ideological worldview. Like most of these guys are like they're soldiers for a cause that they presumably believe in. Like we have no evidence that there is a large rate of defectors in this, even though by all rights there should be. But that they believe in the cause. And when they see Captain America on the plane, like they have an allegiance to that cause, whether or not Red Skull is crazy. Like they're in the army, right? They're in his army. So it actually makes sense to me that they would try to see their mission through. And part of that mission is get this like parasite off our ship.
I like how you call him a parasite and then they're flying the parasites.
That's actually true. He's a cancer. They have to excise the cancer.
Wow. All right.
Mm-hmm.
It is a shame, though, that number 3 did bring the knife to a fistfight because Steve then is able to use the knife to kill number 1. And that's kind of
and the murder just begins. He's throwing knives and killing people, and then throwing them out of the plane.
Well, before that, he drops the drop plane manually before number 2 is able to get into it, and that's the drop of number 2 where he just falls separate from his plane. Again, who knows where that thing is going to land over Switzerland, but off it goes.
So this is the other thing about Captain America that I think this minute brings up, which is I was one of those people that was a bit up in arms when in Zack Snyder's Superman take, he has Superman break Zod's neck, right? Superman becomes a killer. If Captain America is sort of the Marvel, version of Superman, right? Truth, justice, American way. Captain America is a straight up like murderous like individual. He's killing people all over the place and has, not insurmountable power, but does Captain America stand for something bigger than knifing guys in the back? Like, did that ever crop up for either of you in watching this movie? Like, is he made of better stuff than is displayed?
I actually didn't think about that deeply until now, because that's always an interesting question when you think about your heroes. Is it okay that they kill a reasonable amount of people to save? They're trying to say, it's for the better good for everyone else. But they have to kill a lot of people. There's a lot of soldiers that go down in the fight of him trying to get to Red Skull. But I kind of thought of it as, I was interested in the scene and enjoyed the scene because it was the first time to me he felt comfortable in his powers, in what he could do, in his ability. Because he had this stone cold mission. He's lost, his best friend. He has a lot riding on completing this mission. So now he's laser focused on, how do I use the shield? How do my powers kind of work? Like, he's fully into that instead of just charging into buildings and getting out of gunfire and just going straight through fields. He now has more of a straight mission to how he's getting rid of each one of these soldiers, each one of these pilots. But I mean, it's an interesting point. That has me thinking now. I mean, do you still, because Captain America is, Cap is the hero. He's that, when you have Avengers, you don't have the Avengers without Cap. And so now it's a new layer to that. Is that okay? That is what he does.
It's what's really interesting about that specifically, right? Is that we've been joking about the costumes and the cosplay of the Hydra soldiers, but there is a very real reason that Cap doesn't really kill anybody with a face, right? They all have these masks on. They are dehumanized. And in the Avengers, everything that he's killing is like the Chitauri, right? They're all, alien creatures. They're dehumanized. So we don't have any of those, real sort of graphic sequences of Cap killing someone that doesn't have a layer removed of their humanity. And I think that's, for me, that seems to be intentional. I don't know. Andy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely think there's something to that as far as the nature of superhero films. Like, you want to make it seem like he's not just, I feel like it may not be until points later where he is fighting more of the Hydra, the modern Hydra villains.
And they're human, right?
And
they're very much humanized.
I feel like that may be it. Otherwise, it does always seem to be aliens of some sort or something like that. And so that could be a thing that I think in this film, they get away with it largely because it's a war. Like,
it's a war.
The whole conceit of this film is it's World War II, and largely, I mean, I know Hydra is its own thing, and it kind of perpetuates through many of the Marvel films, but it is designed to be the Nazis, right? It's kind of like it's the super soldier Nazis, and so I think to that end, that's where we end up finding that all of the killing that he's doing throughout this film with all the different Hydra troops and blowing up the factories and all this sort of stuff. I mean, even Kruger toward the beginning, I think it boils down to it's the scope of a war.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what makes it stand out in this minute, because there is a level of intimacy to it, to just knifing a guy in the back and dropping them out of the airplane. But it's just a couple of guys that he's fighting. It's not a bigger brawl, right? It's not a huge, like a giant. He's not running into the Hydra brace with explosions going off everywhere that are, again, another layer away from that particular violence. But, this one stands out because it's particularly hand to hand and throwing people out of the airplane. And it allows me to get to my footnote for this sequence, which is the plane just took off But when you see them fly, like, you can't see the ground. The plane must be going like a rocket straight up into the air because they are very, very high, very, very quickly.
I was doing some research. The fastest aircraft right now, the jet aircraft, is the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, and it can reach speeds of Mach 3.3, which is more than 3,500 kilometers per hour or 2,100 miles per hour, almost 4 times as fast as the average cruising speed of a commercial airliner. And that's like a fairly modern plane. So I can't imagine he's flying anything that fast. In general, like if you're flying a commercial airline, the fastest flight that you could go from New York to Austria takes 8 hours and 11 minutes. So, I mean, that's a heck of a long time for him to be flying and to be as high as he is. I mean, when you're on a plane, I mean, it's probably a good, 10, 15 minutes before you reach kind of your cruising altitude. And it hasn't been that long. Again, it's movie time. Time often is compressed and those sorts of things. But even there, I have a hard time thinking that they're beyond an hour into this flight. Like it seems like the fact that Steve is already fighting these guys in the wheel well, it seems like they literally just took off. And so, they're probably still over the mountains between Austria and Switzerland through this entire sequence. And so,
by all rights, we should still be able to see the airstrip where they just out of the back of the plane where they just took off,
or at least some snowy peaks. I mean, it's
Is the Tesseract adding any power to it at all?
It's a good question.
Presumably, but it also seems like largely the Tesseract is used for weaponry more so than flying. I mean, the Tesseract energy, he has it. We've seen it. It's in the cockpit, but it's very unclear what it's used for. I mean, later we'll see it used for some Tesseract blasters that he has on the ship, and we saw them kind of building in the factory some like ring elements that seem like the internal workings of these bombs. But I don't have a clear sense of like the scope of the Tesseract power.
Yeah.
And it's ill-defined over the course of the film. Like, what are they really using this weapon for? And even later, like when S.H.I.E.L.D. has it, like, I mean, they talk about it being like this amazing source of energy and stuff, but it always seems to be getting used for weaponry instead of energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
because it's part of the 6 Infinity Stones, right? Like eventually when they kind of break it down and get it out of the cube. Yeah. So
it'll be the Space Stone.
It's true. They use it for a lot of weapons.
Yeah, like because that's the whole Phase 2 in Avengers is let's make some more Tesseract weapons, just like Arnim Zola was doing.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be interesting to see like what is the scope of one of these bombs? Like, how big would a detonation be? Is it? I mean, are they like? Is the intention to be like this is kind of like a nuclear weapon? Like, is that kind of the intention within the film? It's never really defined, but I guess my sense is that's the level of devastation Red Skull is kind of hoping for to drop enough bombs like that, and then the rest of the people in the world will do whatever he says.
Yeah, that's my take for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we've got a few Wilhelm screams in here. When number 2 falls, there's a little Wilhelm scream there, and then when Steve tosses number 3, it kind of starts with a different scream, but it seems to end on a Wilhelm scream. And then this is where the 5th pilot shows up, and he attacks Steve, and then number 3 also does. I don't know why number 5 came over to this side. I guess that they heard the fighting happening. But number 5 is here, and I know it's not number 4 because we'll actually see number 4 again, because Steve picks up number 3 and tosses him out. That's the one who goes. And number 5 climbs into number 4's plane. That's the New York plane, and it is kind of difficult to track these people because it's not like they have numbers on their back or any distinguishing features. They all look like these robots essentially, like you pointed out, Ryan. They feel very much like stormtroopers in some capacity. That's kind of where we end. Steve starts running around to try to stop number 5, who is hopping into the plane, and gets right up to the end there. I don't know. Any last thoughts about this minute?
Just excited to see what gravity does to Cat.
How does he stop number alive.
I know.
Well, it is funny though. Like he was so quick on the draw with getting to the control panel to drop the Chicago bomb. Like, why doesn't he just do the same thing with the New York bomb before the guy's secured himself in it?
I don't know.
Like they set that up as a thing,
As it wasn't a thing.
I don't know. Yeah,
Andy, you're too level-headed for this Red Skull fighting mess
I
and
know,
fighting
right?
matches.
I know. I'm
Does
the
that give
worst.
you a sense, right, about what Andy would be like if he were in the captain's chair?
I
of
would
the
be so
Valkyrie?
scared of Andy because he
Oh
knows
my
like
God.
each crevice of this plane. He's gonna well calculate it out. Maybe I see
There
one
would be a
pilot over here.
spreadsheet.
Right. Like there's gonna
So
be an hour
much.
before the next pilot arrives. Like he's very well timed. I would be scared of him. Red
that's
Skull,
right.
watch out for Andy. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
For sure.
I'm on my way. All right. Well, Ryan, tell everybody more about Black Girl Nerds and where people can find what you're up to over there.
Yes, you can look for Black Girl Nerds on all social media platforms. And yeah, it gives diversity, inclusion, very important. You have a variety of Black women from all different kind of backgrounds, whether we're talking gaming, where we're talking superheroes. Sometimes we like drama, soap operas, a whole different kind of mixture. And, just having fun, recapping shows, TV shows, the latest games. So check us out. And you can find me on Twitter at November Bear, Ryanne Benn, that's RyanneBenn, on Instagram. So yeah, I'm just, anytime I get to talk superheroes and Marvel is most of the time where you'll find me. So that was my big draw for Black Girl Nerds. And thank you guys again. It's been a pleasure. Anytime I get to talk Marvel, please have me back. I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, well, we love it. So, we will be back tomorrow to talk about Minute 102 with you and Pete. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Tomorrow, Red Mist.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.